So hello, in this tutorial we will practice some quite popular spline animation like this floating object animation, animation on hover, particles, pass animation and camera animation. Let's start from this floating object animation. Here we can see that the object itself has few transitions. It has rotation around itself and smooth movement up and down. So first we need to make our object rotating. And let's take for this animation one of these objects we designed in one of our previous videos. Copy the object and create a new file. Prepare the scene, delete rectangle and make background black. And then pass the object. Be sure that the object has been passed perfectly in the center. If not, reset transform. So now we are ready to set the animation. First animation would be a full rotation around itself. So the object should rotate 360 degrees around itself. Remember that to make transition animation first we need states. So the first state would be our object before and the next state after rotation. So let's add states by clicking on this plus icon in the state sections. And we immediately get two states. Base state, which is before, and state, which will be our object after rotate. So rotate the object for 360 degrees at y-axis at state. So we have states with different y-axis rotation value. Now let's set event, which will trigger our animation. Add event, and we already see that by default we have start event, so the animation will work right after I will play my scene. All we need is set the action, which is transition. Click on transition and set right conditions. I want my object on start event animate transition between base state and state for 1 second, with easy in, out easing. Let's play our scene. And what we see, animation was too fast and it rotates only once. We need it rotates continuously, slowly and with the same speed. So let's get back to our settings. To make the animation slowly, let's change the time between states. For example, let's set 10 seconds and play. Now the speed is optimal, but object rotates once. In the sequence section we can set the loop, how many times animation will be repeated. I set infinite. And if I press play now, we can see that our animation repeats, but between these repeats our object changes the speed of animation. It starts slowly and accelerates and then stops slowly. It happened because by default we have easy in out. If we want the same speed all time, we need to choose linear type and press play. Done. Our object rotates continuously, showing itself from all sides. But it's still a little bit boring. What if we tilt the object a little bit? Like this. But it's not a correct way to do that, because we changed the position of the object for one state, so then we will break our rotation animation. What I recommend to do in this case is adding your object to the group. So now we can work with this group position and do not be afraid of missing something with the object animation. I can rotate the group like this and my object will still rotate around its own y-axis inside the group. And of course, I also can animate this group. I could also add another one level of rotation animation. Or I can make another animation, for example, lifting. This animation will make our object looks floating. All I need to do is add another one group level, because this group is just to control angle of our object. Group our group, and for this group, add states. Base state would be the top position, so move the group a little bit on top, not so much. Select the other state and move the group down. Now let's add the event action. Add the event, start, transition, and set from base to state. Let's play. We see that animation played once and very fast. We need this floating animation to be like rotating continuously. So let's set time for 3 seconds, for example, and for loop set infinite. Let's play again. Pretty close. We need our animation be not just repeated but also rewind or be played backward. So here, when we select infinite loop, we can choose cycle. And here we need the ping pong type. So now object is rotating and floating, and the reason why we do this animation by animation object and group but not an object only, as because we make these two animations work together but with different speed and time. You can see that the rotation happens slowly than floating. Rotation takes 10 seconds, while floating takes 3 seconds in one direction. These asynchronous movements make the animation more interesting. Now let's create some interactive animation. I want this star, while hovering, rotates, change color and move to the camera at the same time, like this. In the new file, set perspective camera mode. Let's add a star object, or actually any object you want, but just not a sphere, it will be boring. I'll go with the star, so now I just need to make it 3D by adding extrusion, and also I can adjust other properties to make this star look nice. Don't forget to be sure that your object position in the absolute center. Now let's work on material. I just want to add a matte cap like this with the screen mode and change this color to black. Now let's add states. First state is what we see, the other state would be what we will see while hovering. So for the second state, I want to rotate this star around, so I set 180. And I move this star close to the camera, so I'm changing the Z-axis position like this. And the last thing, in this state I also want to change the color from black to yellow. Our states are ready. Now let's set animation. Add event, but this time instead start, let's select mouse hover. Set transition from base to state, and this time I will select for transition easing spring. With this type of easing I don't need to set the time. And now let's play our scene and hover our scene. It works! Let's learn how to do an animation like this. Looks like a particle explosion. First we need to create particles, and to do it we will use cloner to object option. In the new file you can delete default light and rectangle and make background black. Also, set perspective camera mode. Add a sphere, be sure it positioned in the center. Make it a little bit bigger. Rename this sphere to the base. We will use this sphere to clone our particles around. Now let's create a particle. Just add another one sphere somewhere, the position of this sphere is not so necessary. Make this sphere smaller, around 5. By the way, to avoid bad performance of the scene, already set the size. For this sphere, around 8. This sphere is too small to be rendered with 64 sides. 8 will be enough. And then turn off lighting layer and change color to white. Now we're ready to apply cloner to this little sphere. While little sphere selected, in the object panel, turn on cloner, set type object, and link our particle to the base sphere. Now we can hide the original particle, and also we can make our base sphere transparent. Select base sphere, and in the material section, turn off lighting layer and delete the color. Now we see only little particles. Let's add more particles. Select sphere, which is our particle. Scroll to cloner section and increase the count. You can actually add more than 100 copies. For example, I can type here 300. I think it's enough. Now, if I want to change the size of the sphere, I can change the size of the base sphere, but also I can change this value instead, position X. But the problem is that all particles change their position together, so it still doesn't look like a random particles in space. To fix it and add this randomness, turn on randomness and start changing the X position here. You see how cool is that? So we create some kind of particles in our space. Now we need to animate it like in the example. We will animate our particle sphere object because we will animate the position X option in the cloner and randomness. Add states. Let's for basic state keep what we have now, but for the second state let's increase the position X value, like this. So the base state looks like this, and the second state. Now let's add event. Start, transition from base state to state for 20 seconds. Play. Nice. Try by yourself make this animation reversed, like that. And now we will learn another one nice animation. Here I will explain you the technique behind this liquid animation. To do this animation, we need to animate 3D path. Let's create 3D path first. Create a new file and delete default rectangle. Instead of rectangle, let's put the 2D ellipse. Make it bigger and convert to path by pressing this button in the shape section. We transform our ellipse into the 3D path. This is way much simpler than drawing a perfect circle by 3D path pen tool. Now let's prepare our path to be animated. We need to imitate some movement through some path. Path we already have. What about movement? While ellipse is our path, circle is our shape. We will work with this. Change the depth, for example like this. So our circle shape depth is a quarter of the path. And now, as because it's not a continuously anymore, and we have this sharp ending, we can make it rounded by selecting round caps here. But it's just a detail. To make a movement animation between states, we will change this value, offset. You can see what happened when I'm changing it from 1 to 0. So we moved part of our shape through the path. So let's add states. In the base state, the offset would be 0, and for the next state, it would be 1. Then add event, transition from base state to state, 3 seconds, linear type, infinite loop, and play. It works, but not so impressive. Let's add a few details. On the base state, change start scale. Now it will look like a drop. And as because I changed this value on the basic state, it also applied to the second state. And add one more thing, add a displaced material. And now it starts to look more interesting. You can increase subdivision for this 3D path so the displace would be smoother. You can make shape size bigger, make displace more intensive, play with colors, add some matcap, even change the path, and achieve something like this. Well, at least you got the idea. By the way, you can animate not only path, but object on the path. To do that, create any path, so this path would be our direction, and select object you want to animate, for example, sphere. And in the object panel, you can find align to the path section. Select our path, and then animate between states this offset and slide. Offset is the start position of your object on your path, and slide is a movement. So you can achieve animation like this. If you're not satisfied with how your objects were added to the path, you can make a little trick. You can add your object to the group, and then you can align to a path this group, and then manage the position of your object inside this group. And you can align not only some objects to the path, but also a camera object and achieve something like this. I call it roller coaster point of view. By the way, you can find this project in my Spline community page. Let me show you how to achieve this result. First, we need some path. For this example, let's create simple ellipse and make it bigger. And convert to path by pressing this button in the shape section. Our ellipse is standing now. Let's put it down by rotating the x-axis to -90 degrees. Now let's make the path shape flat. Switch shape to rectangle, unlock size fields, and change only x size. Make it smaller like this. I will add image layer so then we will better understand the animation. Now let's add a camera. So we need to align this camera to the path and animate it. But here I already recommend you to add the camera to the group, so later when we align this group to the path we can set the right position for the camera object. So let's align our group to the path. And in the project panel, for viewport camera, let's set our camera. So now we see at what our camera looks. Switch orthographic projection to perspective. Now we need to align our camera view. Select camera layer and start play with rotation roll. Try to rotate any direction to find where camera sees what we need, sees the path. You can also change the zoom, set to 0.5 for example. You can see that some part of our path not visible. Remember when we talked about camera object, I said that in this case you need to change camera thresholds, near and far. In that case, near less. Now we can select our group layer, and while changing slide in the align to the path section, we can see how animation will look like. As soon as we manage the position of the camera, let's click on lock icon here and switch the viewport camera to the personal camera. So then you protect your camera object position. Now let's animate it. Add state to our group, not camera, should be selected the group layer. Add state. For base state, offset and slide at 0. Next state, slide is 1. Add event. Start is OK. For transition between base and state, time let's set 10. For easing let's set linear. And for the loop let's set infinite. And let's play. Now we have the view from animated camera, but actually we animated group with camera. Play with background, play with path, and with the path material. Add particles from previous example, add some object in the same group with camera, and then it can look like that. If you want to know more about animation in Spline, I highly recommend you to check these official Spline tutorials. And we are ready to move to the next lesson, where we will animate our character. See you!